You are not behind in life. You just aren't living the life you're supposed to be living. You see it before your eyes, you dream about it, you think about it, you see the version of yourself you're supposed to be, and then you come back to the present and feel the difference between who you are and what you're doing now. You see, life is not a game of being ahead or behind, because life is right for you when you are who you are, when there is no difference, when the life you see before your eyes is what you see with your eyes. When there is no difference, there is who you are. To cite Jordan Peterson in his book 12 Rules for Life, as I've done before, accompanied by Jung and Freud, the monumental figures they are, an idea is an entity and it wants to express itself. And when one's self is expressing itself fully and correctly, per se, they have and or are living as who they are. They are the idea. They are. What you see is what you get. They are. There is no difference between what's before your eyes and what's in front of your eyes. There is no inner turmoil. There is no conflict on a major scale. But can there be a false idea of who one is? Or who one thinks they are, rather? And yes, there can be a false identity, and a false identity can be brought on by a number of circumstances, all centered around consumption of one's environment, accompanied with the lack thereof reflection and introspection. Allow me to explain. So, if you feel something's off, if you feel as if something's wrong in your life, whilst living out an idea you've consumed or been told is the correct way to live, then you are living a false identity. You aren't living who you are. You aren't living your life. You're living a life of dogma. You're living a life that's been deemed correct by others, yet is incorrect to you, to your soul, your being, your idea, per se. So you may be asking, how do I know? How do you know when you are living life through a false identity? And the simple answer is really a question, which is, what are you willing to die for? And or what are you willing to die doing? That is who you are. That is you. Otherwise, you wouldn't die for it at all. Because if it wasn't who you are, you wouldn't die for it. Just as an example, I would like to cite the individual Yukio Mishima.
現代人というものはもうドラマティックな死ができなくなってしまった。病院の一室で、一つの細胞の中の蜂が死ぬように、死んでいくと、いうようなことをどっかで書いていたように記憶しますが、今現代の死は病気にしろあるいは交通事故にしろ、何らのドラマがない、英雄的な死というものもない時代に我々生きております。しかし今の我々は死を描きながら生きているのかどうか、それさえ疑問であります。
Yukio Mishima was a Japanese philosopher, writer, martial artist, and he was also the leader of an attempted coup that culminated ultimately in his seppuku, or his death. And he has a great book called Sun and Steel. My point being here with the example of this man, Yukio Mishima, is he was the leader of an attempted coup, which ultimately resulted in his seppuku and or his death. This man died attempting to save the culture of Japan, per se, if he did not truly believe in what he was doing, if what he was doing wasn't who he was or part of who he was, he would not have died in attempting what he attempted. He wouldn't have faced it with any sort of honor. And there has to be some form of respect to that. Now, I would also say another great way is to eliminate who you aren't. What you won't do, won't die for, etc. That's another way to understand who you are on your journey. In Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights, on page 64, there is a excerpt, The Process of Elimination and Identity. And it says, the process of elimination and identity. The first step that leads to our identity in life is usually not, I know who I am, but rather, I know who I'm not. Process of elimination. Too many options can make a tyrant out of any of us, so we should get rid of the excess in our lives that keep us from being more of ourselves. When we decrease the options that don't feed us, we eventually almost accidentally have more options in front of us that do. Knowing who we are is hard. Eliminate who we're not first and we'll find ourselves where we need to be. Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights. So, I would not say you're behind in life. Don't say that to yourself. You're not ahead, you're not behind, you're where you're supposed to be, but you're not who you're supposed to be. Because if something's off in your life, that means you're not living the life you see before your eyes in here. And you see that life for a reason. So start filling in the gap day by day between the person you are now and the human you're supposed to be. The world is yours. Dare to be great.
現代人というものはもうドラマティックな死ができなくなってしまった。病院の一室で、一つの細胞の中の蜂が死ぬように、死んでいくと、いうようなことをどっかで書いていたように記憶しますが、今現代の死は病気にしろあるいは交通事故にしろ、何らのドラマがない、英雄的な死というものもない時代に我々生きております。しかし今の我々は死を描きながら生きているのかどうか、それさえ疑問であります。